The problem here is that the Swedish Foreign Ministry is advising the Swedish prosecution legal system. They're advising them to not have this, to not prosecute those Eritreans who are here in Sweden, who works for the Eritrean government. The problem is that the Swedish Foreign Ministry have their hands in everything. That's the biggest issue that I see. So what I see in this is that we have two governments, as I see it, working against us because they have their own interest as well. Because many people, I think many people think that the Swedish Foreign Ministry is this naive Swedish humanitarian diplomats. But truly, when I actually also talk to other family members in the same situations, they're saying the same things. And I was in the EU actually in Brussels this July, and we met with, well, these so-called high-level people, and one of them actually screamed at one of us because we asked her, what can you do for us? What can you do for our family members? And everyone, and we met 20 people, and everyone told us, well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's up to you. You have to do something, you have to do something. So really, I'm sorry, Maya, but really, we don't have any trust in the foreign ministry because they are not working for us. And the problem is, we have to teach them. I have to teach the foreign ministry about Eritrea. I have to teach them what strategies they can take. I have to tell them that. And they get paid to work there. So the problem is, the lack of knowledge, the lack of interest, and, not caring enough, to be honest. And this is very problematic because in Sweden, we have over 50,000 Eritreans. So they have to care. But they don't. So unfortunately, the responsibility is on us, the families, the Eritreans, and it's getting very tiring, to be honest. And it's not about, I don't want to be heard anymore. I want action. I want something to happen. The prosecution system in Sweden is really, and I've talked to Esaias and Björn about it yesterday. So I think that one way is to actually prosecute the Swedish government and the Eritrean government. And we talked about this. And now it's also about finding the right people who have the courage to do it. Because it's not easy to prosecute a whole state. Okay, thank you.
Okay, jag tror att få där. Let Esaias comment and then I will give it the floor to you.
I just have short listen. I have also talked to the Swedish government and said that use us like me in Bethlehem. We know the culture. We have a lot of experience from our country. We know a lot of people like YouTubers and activists from Eritrea we can use and say that use us because we heard a lot of things who's coming direct information from Eritrea through the different YouTube channel, but most of the time they say, okay, we in the government, we don't work like that. So every time I spoke to them about that, I'm surprised because I don't understand why they don't use us more. Because sometimes when I say to them, have you heard about this and this? What we can hear from the YouTube channel. So the government officials in Sweden say, no, we don't heard about that. No, because you are not on the grassroots level.
Exactly.
The guys who have information direct from Eritrea is from, it could be from general, it could be from high official level from Eritrea. So I hope they can listen to us in the future because we have a lot of experience together with our friends who are sitting here.
Okay, you went.
Nej, men han skulle...
Please come back. Okay, so I will give the floor to you. Can you stand up, please?
Yeah, sure. Yes, my name is Mr Dawit, and I'm an Eritrean journalist, a colleague of Dawit, and I have been active in the freedom initiative. Already since the Leila Preval's was already listed, we were addressing the way the case was handled was not in the proper way, because when we have dictators who tell their people that they are best, and then so suddenly because Dawit has a second passport that he will be alone free and the others will be kept in prison, is not practical. We know Sweden would be, like what is presented, obligated to ask about Dawit. It's okay. It's not anything negative to us. But for the dictators, they tell their people that there is not a way to free Dawit alone while they will keep the others. Because the only crime will be, I'm one of them, all of my colleagues, we work together. I was chief editor of Almas newspaper, Dawit was force editor. So if I was there, what we are arguing now for is free Dawit because he's Swedish national, but keep the others, we don't care about them. That way it will not work. So we were always saying, let's address it in a different way. Let them get a chance to appear in the court if there is any crime done. There is no, any which I know. It's not like what Bethlehem said. I do see Dawit's case is politicized. Whenever we have social democrats in the power, they use silent diplomacy and they get criticized by the opposition. When the opposition comes to power, they use the same silent diplomacy and they get criticized by social democrats. So if they know this strategy is not working, then they should at least be serious about it and change the strategy. You cannot keep doing the same thing and wait for another reason. It's not only about, there is lack of interest. Why? Because a colleague of mine who was activist like me, even for Dawit's case, traveled from Sweden to Addis Ababa. He's a Swedish national. He was kidnapped from Addis Ababa to Eritrea now. And foreign ministry is informing the parents, the family members to keep quiet because they are doing silent work when there is nothing being done. In 2006 or 2007, I said to Yon Shopping Post and in the interview, the only way Dawit can be free is when there is a regime change in Eritrea as part of the whole solution in the country. Because there is no way for Dawit to be free. If there was such thing that happened, it was a mistake and they corrected it, because the only insult they can do to the Eritrean people more than what they have done is freeing Dawit and keeping the others. So the strategy has to be changed, that we have said initially, but from Sweden part, either they have to take it so seriously and work hardly, like what the Brits did when they have their people dated in Eritrea. And they were even arrested in the Eritrean Sea. But they freed them directly because they were warning them even to close the embassy in London. But we don't see such tendencies from Sweden, and I see it as lack of interest. And now we are afraid. Here in Sweden we are afraid for being attacked by the regime supporters. Even if we are so scared in Sweden, how can we travel to other African countries and get kidnapped to Eritrea? And would I expect Sweden would do anything for me? When I see what happened for Dawit and Mr a young activist, a Swedish, so I see like there is lack of interest, as Bethlehem said, and 23 years. Do we know if he is allowed? We don't know. So what are we arguing for? Sometimes I feel like we have discovered, I can give you a typical example. Eritreans were demonstrating in front of the Swedish parliament, asking Swedish government to do something. No, in front of Ethiopian embassy. Because 𝐒𝐿DSM, a Swedish national, was kidnapped from Addis Ababa, taken to Eritrea. So they were demonstrating in front of Ethiopian embassy while he's kept in Eritrea. And the foreign ministry, we informed them, I informed them. I have contact with the people involved with Eritrea. They know it. So I don't tell public, other than letting thousands of people demonstrating in front of an embassy which cannot do any difference. So the statistical diplomacy is meant to silence the activism we are doing, to silence the voices which we are raising. And it's not giving this. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question over there.
My name is.
You will have a microphone.
Yeah.
My name is ERISAT-Eritrean.
No, sir.
Yes. And I was so impressed by what has been reported today. But then we are in Sweden with the absolute biggest heart in Europe for me. A home of democracy, humanitarianism, and peace, and a country that gave me a home when I lost mine, to myself and my compatriots. What has been said today shows what Sweden has done. So, and this is a beautiful representation, in fact, of what Sweden is. I think we are talking today about what can be done more. And today I will not speak about what Sweden shall do for 𝐒𝐄𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐃, Isaac. Already his heroic brother sustained the idea of saving his brother from the terrible things that are happening in Eritrea. I don't have to spell them out today. They have already been spelled out. What I would say is, what can Eritreans do for this movement? Isaias has been ignored by the Eritrean community in Sweden. He has been fighting, and his family has been fighting by themselves in isolation, without the uprising of the Eritrean community in Sweden to start with, to stand in solidarity with Isaias and his family. That is the first step.
Thank you. I think it's very important.
I shall not discuss diplomacy because I don't think it is the home of diplomacy now. But I shall talk about activism and what Eritreans can do about the principles of activism. I myself promised that I shall write an article when I have the necessary information, and there are very competent journalists here who will be able to disseminate it to the Eritrean communities in the Eritrean diaspora. And by the way, I would like to add that my father was the first prime minister in Eritrea, the first elected one. And they have been leading the Eritrean revolution in competition with the present dictator for so many years, and the Eritrean opposition after Eritrea became independent. So I hope I do not sound arrogant, but I just wanted to say that an article for me would have some kind of impact.
Thank you. We're looking forward to that.
Thank you. The most important thing is that let's start with this article, and Mahari and Abdu and all other Eritreans in the diaspora focus on Isaak for at least 6 months. Focus. So that all governments, including our government here in Sweden, would give us an ear. Let us establish a committee, a delegation that can contact the Swedish government, because we are an electorate now. We are not invandrare only, we are perhaps new invandrare as they call us, but we have the right to vote. And political parties can court us. We must make people listen because they needed to be voted into the parliament. Let us not forget. And so, all right, today is not a day for speeches. Today is a day for solidarity with Isaias and his family, and these wonderful people who have told us what has been done so far for Isaac and family. And I'm proud to say that Sweden, probably now in the darkening periods, the clouds, is the only haven of free press, democracy, and the only country which takes care of its invandrare, as they call us, the new invandrare, properly as human beings, as long as we behave properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Since we're now coming to what Eritreans can do, we know that the diaspora in Sweden is extremely divided. There are those who are very much pro the regime and those who are against. But I would like to hear from you, 𝐒𝐂𝐿. I mean, we talked before we came here, how much does people in Eritrea, how much do they know about Dawit's case and the other imprisoned journalists?
I believe that everyone knows about that, but it's not easy to speak up about that. Even to break it, tell, discuss with them. So I don't know. I don't think it's lack of knowledge about that. It's lack of feeling or attachment. So people, I believe people know about that because being imprisoned is everywhere, in every family. So the problem is we can speak about that freely. There is no internet, public internet access. Everybody feels, and everybody feels that the regime spy our telephones or conversation is practice. So the main thing is fear. Like knowledge.
I think it's time to wrap up, but I would like to know if there are any last words from any of you. You've heard some suggestions, and what we know is that I think there's an agreement that silence diplomacy has done its bit. I mean, it's to refer to that as the Prosecutor General did when we made the first complaint, and that's many years ago. And I mean, silent diplomacy has not given Dawit his freedom, and we need to find other ways. I mean, we have to remember that it's Eritrea who's keeping him a prisoner, but still there is food for thought when it comes to how can we address the Swedish government. And I think by getting Eritreans in Sweden involved, I think that would be a very, I mean, we've been discussing this, you and I think that would be a very good idea. But do you have any last words you would like to give? Karin?
Yes, I would like to thank the audience for the words here today, very inspiring words. And I think as a media representative here in this panel, I'd like to say that it's so important for us to keep our eye on this case and not lose our interest in it. We have to fight the fatigue and keep up the pressure, not least on the EU. I think also that's Sweden have not had the strength to solve this case, and I think we have to put the pressure on the EU to get their act together and speak as one voice. But the EU does not accept that Eritrea is jailing a Swedish citizen, a Swedish journalist. We do not accept that China is kidnapping Swedish writers, publishers. EU has to speak as one voice in these topics to protect their EU members. I think that must be the focus now, and I feel a huge responsibility as an editor to push my co-workers to keep their eye on this case and report the important news about it, and not to forget Dawit Isaak again, as we did in the beginning.
Thank you. Joe, do you have some last words?
Yes, I think what is important too is, like we're speaking of international coalitions, since some years we're cooperating with the Baden-Württemberg Center for Human Rights in Canada, which they're doing a brilliant job. So together with them we find a report to the UN Working Group on arbitrary detention, which is indeed what's going on. And they gave a result last summer, which was like, I don't remember correctly whether it was 11 or 18 articles in various international conventions that Eritrea is violating. And again, it's important to say that this is not only for Dawit, it's his name we're putting up there, but we're always mentioning the others too, because we must remember that Eritrea banned the entire press. Sometimes people will come up and ask, what article did you write to get a prison? Well, it was not an article, it was just for being a journalist. And like Bette said yesterday, they go for the journalist first when they want to go against democracy. Again, we're not more worth as human beings being journalists than anyone else, but the job that we're doing in democracy, and much more bravely done in other countries than Sweden, that is really something to keep an eye on, like you're saying. And together with the Canadians, we're also in the process of, again, using the law. If you know the Magnitsky sanction mechanism, Magnitsky was a lawyer working in Russia for an American financier, Bill Browder. So he managed to push through legislation in the US saying that even if you cannot bring someone to court, you can, if they have committed crimes that you can reasonably prove, you can put them for financial sanctions and you can stop them from introduce travel bans. So we're pushing, or very in the forefront, this committee in Canada, using that in Canada. It's already filed such a complaint, so it's work going on in many other areas of the world as well. Again, to make it felt for the perpetrators, for the guys in power who are traveling around more or less freely, also collecting the money that they're collecting at the embassies through this voluntary tax that one is supposed to pay when visiting your embassy in Stockholm or wherever. So that is one way to go forward as well, I would say. But as you're usually saying, we should find, well, not me personally, but a way into the Eritrean diaspora, because that would really make a difference to each other.
Any last words, Maya or Isaiah? Maya would like to say a few words.
Yes, quickly. I agree with so much of what you have said, and I think it's important that we keep on doing what we're doing. I don't think any of us mentioned the kind of co-working group that we have handing over letters where we bring up the case once a month and we take turns within the several of the panel participants here, but also lots of other Swedish associations that take times doing this. But I also would like to end with a quote from Peter Benenson, who was the person who founded Amnesty International, who used the old proverb, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And I think that's something that we can cling to just to help ourselves to stay working with things like this where it takes many, many, many years, but to not lose hope and not lose keeping our eyes on the target. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank the Eldelstam Foundation for giving Dawit this incredible project.
Prize, because it is obvious that it has raised a lot of very needed international attention. So thank you so much to the Eldelstam Foundation for this.
Yes.
Yes, what I want to see is more engaged, like Björn said, from the Eritrean diaspora, because we know our country, we know how this government works, how evil this government is. So, and we have also, I mean, most of the people has someone in Asmara or in country who can send information. So, I think just pressure from the Eritrean diaspora to the government directly. I think that is maybe a new way.
How about you?
Yeah, few words. Yeah, I feel like Sweden is trying to communicate with a language the other side couldn't understand. So Sweden and the EU countries should learn from the experience, which didn't work. So they should change their language to speak with the region, to communicate with the region.
This will be the last words, and I would like to thank you all very, very much, and I hope that you feel that you've learned a bit more, and at least you've got a very good history lesson from 23 years back. And thanks very much for very good questions and for coming here.
Thank you.